And in this worldwide pandemic situation where the world is at standstill and entire tomorrow only is a one question mark for all, that what will happen in next. So this is our webinar series part 2. Lots of requests we got from students to create such kind of a discussion with the industry professional. We from Bengal Institute of Technology Training and Placement Cell in association with Institution and Innovation Cell of BIT has been organized this webinar on to show the path of hope and motivation to all the students fraternity. So today we have three dignitary speakers from the industry, Mr. Prashant Sinha, Mr. Shomudip Ghotok, and Mr. Shayantan Mukhopadhyay. So before we go to our this webinar, we have some do and don'ts. So I just quickly go on to that. We have a feedback form which will be provided at the last of the webinar. So please hang on to that. And we have a Q question and answer session round will be there, and we come to here on the last of the session. So attendee, please enable their full name, and we have a certificate for this. So please hang on to the last of the session. And so attendees, you can ask question directly to me. You can send into the chat, then I will pick up the question end of the session to the speaker. Okay, so um, before starting this webinar, I quickly go through a short bio of Mr. Prashant Sinha. That Mr. Sinha has experienced leader with 15 years of professional experience in domain like public sector consulting, governance reform, and institutional strength of healthcare provides education and entrepreneurship, etc. Experience with the four major consulting firms in Accenture, Deloitte, and PwC. Not for the profit, non-profit entity experience with the College of American Pathologists CAP, and risk analysis industry experience with the G Capital. So Mr. Sinha will provide us a deep insight onto introspection of setting up goal during the worldwide pandemic. So over to Mr. Sinha.
Thank you, Mr. Bhattacharya.
Yeah.
It's an honor and pleasure to be speaking on this webinar. Uh, Given the topic, we are talking about goal setting in a pandemic situation. So I'll break it in two parts. I'll briefly talk about, the aspects of goal setting. And then on the second half of my address, I'll come to the pandemic part of it and how the goal setting process gets changed. Now, obviously, as goal setting kinds of indicates, it's about a desire and objective, which is slightly easy. All of us would like to be successful, would like to have rewards, do be recognized, be doing well in life professionally. So that's a relatively easier part. But it also, kind of indicates what kind of passion you have, what kind of interest you have, and that should determine what's your long-term goal is. But more importantly, goal is not only about where you want to reach. More importantly, it's about what kind of pain you're willing to take in the process of reaching there. So everybody would say that yes, I want to be an Olympic gold medalist, but do you want to train for 15 hours or do you want to be eating absolutely as per what is required to have such a tight control on your diet to be able to get closer to an Olympic medal? So that is pretty important to think about, is not just where you want to reach, but very critical thing is what kind of sacrifices you want to make where you want to reach. So goal setting, please remember, if you haven't given enough thought about the kind of sacrifices and the pain you will bear to achieve what you want to do, it would be difficult. The plan will come unravel. And that's where the passion becomes a key element for determining the long-term goals. The second thing, obviously, the goal, acts as a rudder. It gives you a direction, but at the same time, you need the oars to get the boat moving. So that's where the system and processes comes in. While goals provide a long-term direction, but systems and processes gives you tools to be able to move your ship. So hence, you need to break down your goals into more of systems and processes, which clearly indicates what you're going to achieve, how you're going to achieve, when, how, and everything around it. The third thing that is very important about goal setting is goal competition. Now, obviously, every goal has a commitment of resources, commitment of your bandwidth, commitment of your effort. Now, if you are working with too many goals, it's likely that you'll be going in circles because all the O's and rudders will be confused. Hence, it's very important that you eliminate goals that are lower in the priority and pick up only those goals which matter to you. And that is a very critical element of goal setting, where you're evaluating all the goals and choosing absolutely one or two where you really want to put your efforts on. The fourth thing I wanted to highlight was stacking of habits. So goal will require a lot of effort activities on your end, and that's where linking it with habits become very critical. For example, if you are a habit to say go for swimming, and if you set up a goal which says that after swimming immediately I'll do coding for an hour, say. Now this linking of new activities, efforts towards your goal with existing habits makes it a bit easier to follow, because you're already uh, in a flow with existing habits, and these kind of are interwoven. New activities are interwoven with the old habits, and hence it becomes easy to navigate the process. The other element I wanted to highlight is we often set goals in terms of minimum, at least 20 push-ups, at least 50 push-ups. We never talk about the upper bound. Now, while you make efforts to get towards the goal, there are two aspects to it. One is obviously the aspects which says if you are lazy enough to not do work, uh, obviously you will not be achieving much. But on the other side, there's also something called burnout. And hence, you don't want to either be in either quadrant where you are burning yourself out or you're too lazy and not putting adequate effort. And hence, it's important to set both the minimum and maximum bounds to what you want to do, and go for small increments on a sustained basis. Don't just uh, try and achieve everything on a certain day. Go for 1% increment every day, so that it's a slow, sustained, and very sustainable process of increments going forward. The another thing that is critical about goal setting is aligning to the environment. Now, the way you create the environment will enable and facilitate certain kind of efforts. To cite a very simple example, if you leave a cell phone near a bed, obviously the first thing you're going to do is when you wake up, your first thing you'll search for your phone and hunt out all your WhatsApp messages and mails and whatnot, because you've set the environment in that way. If you had set it differently, your wake up practices would have been probably different. Hence, there are environmental clues, and that is very critical in terms of uh, facilitating activities towards this goal. This is typically called through a word called choice architecture. And these kind of choice architecture that you build around your goal setting is pretty critical in terms of achieving progress on your goals. Now, the last piece of goal setting is what you will find a lot of emphasis on, is having a goal that is measurable. So if you can measure your progress, what is deficient, and hence it will become a part of your continuous learning process. So it's very important that you measure backwards. When I say measure backwards, is like if you go to a gym, you should be maintaining a logbook of all the amount of weight you have lifted for last few days, so that when you look at whatever you have measured backwards, you will be able to determine what kind of progress you are making towards your goal. So that is very, very critical for a goal setting point of view. Now, if you let me now come, once I've set up some context to a process of goal setting, I'll also like to take a few minutes on talking about how pandemic changes it. Now, what is the impact of this pandemic? Uh, it has gone through a cycle, and we have made a lot of progress. The doctors understand how this pandemic works and how it can be treated. There are very promising vaccines on the horizon. In fact, you are following news items, you would have seen that Oxford AstraZeneca have claimed that it's a double protection. It not only triggers antibodies, it also triggers T cells. So the vaccine seems capable of giving a long-term protection against the virus. Hence, the situation is much more optimistic than it was, say, 4 months back. And maybe by September, October, some kind of emergency vaccine will come, and the situation may stabilize a bit. Uh, the hopes are pretty good of that happening. But having said that, it is critical that the process has caused certain disruptions. Now, these disruptions may leave some permanent scars. For example, a lot of companies have gone around doing a lot of things online, for which they were spending a lot of travel budget and a lot of hotel budgets. For example, for a simple thing, the onboarding process. Now, it was very common for onboarding to have, uh, for big companies to do onboarding in hotels, the HR team flying down, the trainers flying down, a lot of costs involved in a simple process like HR and onboarding. Now, in this pandemic, they have realized that, onboarding can be done pretty much virtually. So will they go back ever to incur that kind of cost for a process like onboarding of an employee? Maybe not. Also, on a more drastic side, a lot of, if you go through the literature, there are a lot of companies who are saying we really don't need all this real estate. Maybe it's time to get out of the offices, and all the enterprise functions and everything can remain from work from home. So the efficacy of the work from home has to be seen over a long term, whether it's sustainable or not. But companies are bold and they have been trying it out. So fundamentally, it's changing, the kind of job content people had. The trainer who was very good in terms of managing a class and managing interactions in an in-person flow may now need to develop skills to do it on an online connect. So the content is changing. The other thing is obviously the disruption of due to technology was always there. The Industry 4.0 is about to hit the Indian economy. It's already there in the developed countries, and that will alter, the way the future is going to look like. I'll encourage all of you to go to TEDx and see a lot of talks on impact of Industry 4.0 on a very stretched, uh, visualization of what Industry 4.0. Even find proponents who will say that going forward, people will have no work. They will only have entertainment and pleasure. The work will all pass on to machines. There are different flavors. Some Bill Gates says, why don't we levy income tax on bots? So all these are different facets of the debate. But this technology coming, the emerging technologies hitting us is unprecedented in terms of the impact it was supposed to generate, and the pandemic has accelerated that to an infinite level. Having said that, this also means for you that your career goals, if not aligned to technology, if not aligned to the new skill sets, uh, may make you irrelevant or ill-equipped for the future that is coming. So when you are doing this goal setting, this changes that are happening in terms of how technology is going to change everything around. Not just and when I'm saying technology, I'm not saying about coding per se. I'm also saying the way doctors work, the way architects work, the way pharmacists works. Is going to impact everything and anything. So now in this situation where the business models are getting disrupted, where the skill sets are getting disrupted, and where technology is gonna disrupt, the way uh, the efficiencies are driven. In this context, there's a lot of uncertainty related to a pandemic. And how do you cope with an uncertainty? So what does an uncertainty do? Typically, the first thing it causes is a lot of fear. Now, if you do a bit of introspection, you will realize that most of the fear that cripples us is more imagined than anyways real. In your course of life, you worry about a lot of things which, 90 or 99% of the things that you worry about never happen. It's actually 4 to 5% of the fear maybe that actually converts into something being. So one of the key strategies of handling fear is to confront it. I would suggest, start building a list of all the fears. Start building some kind of a coping strategies about it, how you can do a mitigation of these fears, and also have a strategy to prevent that. God forbid, if some of the fears do become a reality, how are you going to negate those fears going forward? And that controlling that anxiety and controlling the sense of fear will be critical for you to do the goal setting exercise. Also very critical in your goal setting, given the uncertainty and pandemic, is to determine the cost of inaction. So what happens if you do not follow up on your goals or the activities and anything? What is the cost of the inaction? What will happen 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, or 2 years down the line? How will your life gonna change because you have not decided to pursue finite goals and finite actions that lead to it? The third part that is very critical is having resilience and flexibility around your goal setting, because you may have to cite an example. I had a very close friends, and not to this magnitude, but there was a crisis in 2002. That was the time we were coming out of colleges. And he passed out of BIT Mesra. He got an offer from Satyam, but Satyam never gave him a joining letter. But he was flexible enough to appear for an examination with Indian Navy. And Indian Navy takes engineers. He passed that exam. And then he served Navy for 10 years. And then now he's having a fantastic corporate career. So those are the resilience and flexibilities that your goal setting need to do. You can have some micro plans, you can have some mid-year plan or mid-term plans, and you can have some big ideas in the long term. But all these may need adaptations because because of the poor conditions in the labor market, you may not get the job that you wanted to start with. You may start with, say, entrepreneurship, or maybe you have extended your higher education, go for your GATE or whatever other exams are there, and pursue an MTech or MS or something like that that delays your entering into the labor force. So while the long-term goals remain, the short-term adaptations to that labor force or to that situation needs to be there in terms of the micro goals that you set for yourself. So this kinds of brings me to the conclusion of what I wanted to convey. Hope it would generate some thoughts for you, and I hope you will be able to draw some goal plans which proves instrumental to you in achieving your goals. And I believe uh, every crisis is an opportunity. So draw your goals, draw it well, put a lot of thought behind it, put a lot of brainstorming behind it, think carefully what you want to do, what you enjoy, and even if the short-term situation is not conducive, how do you circumvent the short-term situations to get back towards your goal in medium to long-term situation. So thank you so much. I now hand it back to the moderator.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your very good insight onto that. So we have uh, we have a question and answer session at the last of the session. So after this, completing this, we will come to that Q&A session. So, sir, I think I have also some questions, and student must be has some question. So on that time, we will discuss onto that. And so now you come to the next speaker, Mr. Shomodip Khotok, and before starting this, as I just go through very quickly, I go through uh, Shomodip Ghatok, some short bio onto that. And Mr. Ghatok is a human resource head in Reliance Jio, and is a highly motivated and smart worker and HR professional. He holds a PGDM degree in the Human Resource Management from Birla Institute of Management Technology, Greater Noida. And he was in a recruitment, employee relationship management, in ELCM and HR operation. And before Reliance, he was on Videocon industry. So over to Mr. Shomodip Ghatok.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
continuing, from the previous speaker where he ended, where Prashant sir actually ended, I would, first of all, what I would like to say is the situation that we are in. The correct term to define this situation is something that we call as unprecedented. So if we look at the last 50 years or even maybe 60 years, we as a generation or even the previous generation, we have not faced any situation where we have come across a pandemic or a disease so devastating, which has actually changed not only how people work, not only how people live, but how the society as a whole functions. So naturally, as desperate times call for desperate measures, unprecedented times also call for unprecedented measure. So like every there is light at and the light at the end of every tunnel, this crisis also ends up with an opportunity and also with a silver lining. So how to get the best out of it? I think the first thing that we should keep in mind is the term that is very, very, very rampant nowadays, that is the new normal. So what is the new normal? The new normal, the biggest example I think probably is what we are having right now. If we go back 5 years, 6 years, webinars or seminars over the internet were a thing which were a luxury. We used to have physical seminars where people would be coming down. But now, as necessity comes with the as necessity is the mother of all inventions. So this necessity has also equipped us with finding out solutions on how to address this particular issue. Coming to the original topic, that is introspection on the goal setting during these times, I think a little background will be helpful to understand that where we are standing as a global workforce right now. In terms of India, if you look at India right now, there are about 535 million people who are actually registered as the labor workforce. It is very surprising to note that almost 8 out of 10, that is almost 398 million, have actually said that they are not working in a job which they feel is decent enough. So what does this bring us to? This brings us to actually the point that there are people who have been working in jobs which they feel are not suited to their skill set even before this pandemic actually kicked in. Now, what can be the possible 2-3 reasons? Is it only because of the fact that the unemployment rate in India was around 3.5-4%, which has now moved on to double digits? Is it only because of that? Or is it because of the fact that the curriculum and the model of education that we are following is actually not in sync, in complete sync with what the industry requires us to be? To delve deep into this, if you look at the present scenario in this pandemic, whereas there were industries like retail, there were industries like manufacturing which were actually struggling. Retail and manufacturing are amongst the industries which have probably been impacted the most. However, if we look at the technology and the retail part, technology and retail have actually seen a pretty drastic growth. If I look at telecom in general has moved from just being a solution provider to I would say technology service provider, which is enabling people to which is enabling actually people to deal with different aspects of life, be it healthcare, be it education, be it connectivity. I'm sure all of us have come across the terms 5G, which is being launched recently. So the idea of saying this is that this particular situation is actually prompting us to put our thinking caps on, to think deep into what can be the possible solutions or what can be the possible ways where we can find alternate ways of working than the previous model that we used to follow. Now, coming to the goal setting part, when I talk about goal setting, as was very correctly highlighted, a goal, according to me, has to be smart. Now, when I talk about smart goals, what are smart goals? S stands for specific. So your goals has to be specific. They need to be tangible. You need to know how to measure, which brings to the M. They need to be measurable. Then I come to the A, which is attainable or assignable. Although I am a firm believer that nothing is impossible, but if after training 3.5-4 years to be in a particular industry, if you suddenly feel that you can set a goal which is in complete desync with what you have been training on, the credit of achieving is on you, but that goal needs to be attainable by all means. The next part has to be relevant, which again comes from the previous word attainable, and the last has to be time bound. I need to know that when I'm setting a goal, it has to be it has to have a specific time limit to it. I cannot just go on saying that I will achieve a goal in 1 year and then keep on postponing it in 1.5, 2 years, 2.5 years, because just as justice delayed is justice denied. A goal which is not achieved in the set timeline is a goal not achieved. Now, as I was previously saying that every crisis has a silver lining. Although the initial fear and the initial uncertainties which have now somewhat settled down with big corporates like TCS, Wipro, They have declared that there will be no job cuts, but considering the way of change in way of working, we need to understand how we can contribute to this. There is a very real possibility that all the service providers will be moving on to work from home. Why? Because slowly, gradually, this crisis has actually made us understand that there are certain costs which actually can be dealt with or actually can be cut. Now, as the top line of every business suggests, cost cutting is a very important part of achieving the overall profit, if I may say. So, I don't believe personally there will be any organization which will be typically moving back to the original way of working. And where does that lead us to? That leads us to the specific idea of gaining and achieving, gaining and attaining the skills which are required to navigate through this. To be very specific on these few pointers, which I would again like to reiterate, or I would like to mention specifically in terms of the goal setting or in terms of the introspection in terms of the, from the students. First is you need to understand and you need to tap the right sectors. Not all sectors are actually struggling. There are sectors, just as I mentioned, which are doing well and which will keep on doing well considering the opportunity in this crisis situation. Be flexible. You need to understand that these are times when your goals need to be flexible enough in order to give you the I would say leverage in terms of attaining what you want. Keep on upskilling. These are times when even corporates are going on with digital and online training and certifications for their employees. There are organizations, I can speak for my organization, which is actually having a very drastic training and certification module for their employees, in not only in terms of skills which are directly related to the work, I mean which are directly related to the job profile, but in terms of diversification as well. Add creativity to your resume. See, we have to understand one particular thing, that when I'm talking about a crisis, it doesn't mean that it is this the end of the world. We as a global workforce have navigated through such crises, such situations before. Yes, not this particular situation that we are facing, but we have had difficulties. We have had, not all of it has been a smooth ride. So you need to know what exactly it is needed without getting demotivated in order to get what is required. The last, another basic point is grab your opportunities. You need to understand that opportunities at this point of time will not only be limited to what you have originally planned. As I was mentioning, that you need to be flexible enough to understand when an opportunity is arriving, and you need to be skilled enough to grab that opportunity by both hands. And the last but not the least that I would like to mention from my end is, please take care of your mental health. These are trying times, these are testing times, and as I was repeatedly saying, this is not the end of the world. There is light at the end of every tunnel, and we need to understand what exactly needs to be done in order to navigate through this, and working towards it will surely and certainly take us out of this particular situation. So that will be all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Shomodi. So wonderful insight and a wonderful. You have already clearly mentioned that we have to go for a smart movement, which is to reach our achieve goal within a time bound. That is the main thing, very important part. And obviously, I also suggest all of my students that don't lose your heart. In every there is a light in after that every tunnel. So nicely explained by Mr. Shomodeep Ghotok, and now we will go through the next participant. So before that, I request to all the participants that we have a certificate. So please hang on to that in the last of the session, and we will provide you a link. Through that link, you can automatically you can give a feedback form. Then after this session, we'll provide that link into the chat box. So now come to that our next speaker. So Mr. Shayantan Mukhopadhyay. So I just quickly go through Mr. Shayantan's short bio. Mr. Shayantan is currently is a product manager of Pinterest. Then formerly he was in the product manager of the Twitter core ad team, focusing on user modeling, marketplace, and ad serving. He also built and lead analytics and internal tools team within the organization of Twitter, San Francisco, and he attended that Barclay School of Information Graduate School. And prior to school, he did undergraduate in India and worked for the 3 years in Accenture in Singapore and India. And right now, he is a lead of Pinterest ad ranking, relevance, and ad marketplace product. Primarily, his world is compromised with the machine learning modeling and experience with the economics modeling for the technical side, and managing and leading of excellent effort, including market analytic design, opportunity to drive and deliver result for the business side. So over to Mr. Mukhopadhyay.
Thank you, everyone. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Thank you. Um, First, thank you so much for having me. I I want to borrow some of the things already been said, so I don't repeat myself, and we give time to the participants to ask questions. I'll make it brief. There are a few things which are not changing. The first thing which is not changing, the demand of skill is not changing. Even in US, there is a demand of more than 500,000 um, skilled professional with data skills right now this year. So the companies are looking for those professionals of 500,000, and some of them can be you. So the necessity of solutions to be made, values to be created, problems to be solved for any industry overall is not changing. What is changing are two things, in my opinion. First, it's changing how we work. And initially, how we work needed certain elements of co-location, communication, um, being able to like have a regime where you need to go to the office, punch your card. I remember personally that at Accenture, at least, like we used to have a log of like when people coming in, when people going out. But those things have been gone. I mean, at least the world that I live in. So things are more flexible already, and things are going to be more flexible moving forward. And I will explain that why that is more important, like that why that is happening more. And so that's one part to hold on to, that how we work is going to change. The other thing going to change is that this situation is going to accelerate, possibly push certain parts of the industry to innovate faster. Because it's a good example, possibly like the pharmaceutical industry. And one of the speakers mentioned about Oxford AstraZeneca. Something to understand that bringing a drug to the market from the beginning of it, the research to the entire testing cycle, etc., takes multiple years. And that's the right way to do it. But in certain cases in this, we might see that people will be trying to figure out that how to do the testing faster, so we can avert this kind of situation better in future. At least we can tackle this one. Now, I am personally cannot be in a position where I can be extremely optimistic about that when this situation will be averted. But it will it will go away for sure. But it will take time. But it will also change how we work overall. So going back to three things I was mentioning. One, skills will be still in demand of the things that um, in every industry. Two, certain industries were already going through transition. This pandemic will move the transition faster. Three, how we work, that's going to change. And with all three of them, what changes for you? In my opinion, it only changes like uh, the way you look at the world. I personally graduated in 2008, and 2008 was a recession year, and I didn't join Accenture until 2009. So for a year, I figured out what to do outside the plan I already had. So how adaptable you are is one of the key skill of human species. That's how we evolve. So how you adapt with the current situation. Let me give you a small example. See, you're like trying to figure out what to do. You have free time now, given you are not going out and having fun. Okay, I mean, why don't you make a website and try selling some stuff that you can source from someone? Or why don't you like there are like lots of ways to like you can start your own small enterprise maybe. Put yourself out and learn things, but learning is not, applications are more important than just theoretical learning. So put yourself out, adapt with the current situation. That's the only way we all will survive. Please be safe. Don't try to think that the situation is already under control or something. The situation is definitely not under control of, I mean, in most of the countries that not in US for sure. And the situation that this doesn't seem like that for India as well. But focus on skills, and just adapt with the, like adapting your goal is going to be the key for success. So with that, I think let's try to take questions maybe for last 15 minutes.
Okay, Shantan, you done?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think because most of the things we're already told by
Yes, yes.
Prashant and Shamadev are the same things that I would have iterated otherwise. I don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so thank you once again for the wonderful insight into that, and I think it will help to student to prepare their mental and strategical to sit for the either campus interview or any other take the decision for any job changes, something like that. Okay, so this is the time we go for the question answer session. So I think Rajdeep, can you just okay, I request all of you that you can ask question directly to the speaker. We have a Mr. Shomadip Ghatak and Mr. Prashant Sinha is there.
Yes, students, you can ask question directly to Sudipta Bhattacharya, sir.
Yeah, yeah. You
You
can send
can,
the
you
question
can,
into chat box, or you can directly you raise the hand. Then we will direct connect to
okay,
the speaker. Okay,
okay.
or you can send into chat box.
While we are taking questions, I also wanted to address something that I know that many of you possibly want to go for higher studies. Um, how the universities will adapt with this current situation is something that also we don't know. Most of the universities in US are moving to online only like classes and stuff. So I guess a new normal, at least for next 1.5, 2 years, is going to be the remote work and online education and everything. So embrace that as much as possible. And there are lots of already like resources and free courses and classes and recorded sessions, etc., available. So whatever problem interests you, you can just go and start doing that by yourself. And it will require some degree of motivation from your end, but I think the university, the college here can also help to like create a guideline. Is like, okay, if you want to learn about this, these are the like possible resources, so on and so forth. So that can be another way of like looking at the continued education part.
Yes, yes, that is a very important thing that can you can consider about that. Not only the job, you can think about your higher studies in outside India. Then what is the scenario will be? You can ask questions, something like that onto that. Okay, I got some question. So first question I'll ask Mr. Okay, Shantan, you have a question for that. That being a student of EC, how much the coding knowledge is required to get a job in a product-based company?
So it all depends on what the function you're serving. In some of the, I mean, if you're working, say, in marketing, or if you're working in operations, then you don't need like as much of coding skills. I mean, you don't need coding skills. You need other skills. But if you are in the technical team, then possibly you do need take coding skills if you're an engineer. The next thing is possibly moving forward. We are looking at a scenario where um, everyone needs some degree of coding skills, and it can be for prototyping, for showing your engineers that what outcome you're looking for, to help them and help the company understand that how to make sense of the data or trends. So the first, please, coding is going to be more important moving forward. It's a skill that all of us should have. Two, it depends on which part of the company you're part of, and if you're not in engineering directly, then possibly it's somewhat less. Three, specifically for product managers, you need certain degree of coding skills to be able to make sense of the data and also to build prototypes.
Okay, okay, yes. So thank you. And there is another question, Shantan, for you. That Shagnik Vishwas has asked this question: that what is the focus of the audience and marketing strategy of an art-based company like Pinterest, and also main motive of the company who work out so well to make?
Yes, the mission of Pinterest is actually to bring inspiration for people to make a life they want to live. And we call ourselves the world's inspiration company. Twitter was different. Twitter's goal in the world is to bring real-time news whenever, wherever you are. So the goal of, you have the question that what the goal of the marketing team, is that right?
Yeah. That
Okay.
means they actually ask that what is the focus of the audience and the marketing strategy for your company.
Okay, so I think the marketing basically, if you see, happens for a few different ways. One is like there's a function of growth marketing, and for any product team or any company, any product company, and the growth marketing is basically how you can grow the number of users. So that's by like running online campaigns, creating like buzz about certain features coming out, etc. The second one is about business growth. So um, Pinterest as a company makes its money from advertising. So, so reaching out to the advertisers through different channels, and it can be online or offline. It can be through agencies, like reaching out and telling the story that what Pinterest is for. That's the business marketing part. And then the third one possibly is more in the core. It's less of possibly marketing, but more of like business development to build relationship partnership in the industry. So when you are like how you can, so if you're searching something on Google, often you see a series of things from Twitter, and that section is a part of a negotiated deal between Twitter and Google, that certain search results will carry responses from Twitter. So that's a third possibly business development marketing kind of aspect of in a company like Pinterest or Twitter.
Okay.
Shubhita sir,
Yes.
I am sending the means feedback certificate link to the students attendees more specifically, and
Okay.
they're supposed to means fill that particular feedback form by 7 o'clock, by 8 o'clock today.
Okay. Okay, Shantan, there is another question that after your speech, one of the student from the Abhishek Kumar, he said that uh, in this situation, he said that COVID-19 will affect this year, or we can think that it will be the opportunity to take the another something.
So what's the question?
Actually, he wants to say that he thinks that in this situation, will they think this is the opportunity to do new something or anything else?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. So I think so first I mean I don't think I gotten a chance, but your career is a jungle. It's not a straight line. And the concept of a jungle, that oftentimes you're in a jungle and you don't know that which direction to go. And you explore certain paths and you find a really nice lake. And then you go some to other direction and you find an amazing cave with graffiti on the walls. So the reason I'm mentioning this, that none of us knew that where we will be at 10 years after. And so where you are, it's really hard for you to project that, okay, I want to get there, and 10 years from now, what are all the things I can do? So going back to something like timeline wise goal, and tying back to goal because that's the focus of this conversation, is like set a goal, maybe like, okay, where I want to see myself like 2 or 3 years from now, and how can I get there? And once you get like maybe 2 years down, then it's like, okay, 2 or 3 years from now, where I want to see myself. Now, is this an opportunity of, is it a time to like explore new opportunities? Absolutely. I mean, every time you should explore new opportunities. There is, and you should not feel ever stuck. If you ever feel stuck in a job, then the best thing you can do is please quit the job and like go for the next one that challenges you and that grows you. If you want to start some company, if you want to start some venture of any kind, it doesn't require a lot of money, and it just requires your motivation and to learn. Because in any startup, most of the times, even the founders don't know how to do like 90% of their job. Uh, Jeff Bezos used to basically go and buy the books from a bookstore and sell through Amazon. At Pinterest, our Ben used to go to basically Apple stores and used to yell that Pinterest, such a cool app, it came out. Have you guys checked it? And someone would say that no, and they're like, oh, this is how you install it and use it. So that's how Pinterest initial growth happened for like first couple of thousand users. So, I mean, there is no straight answer to it. Just any problem that excites you, try to find a solution,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you will build something new.
Yes, absolutely correct. So there is an related to this question, that there is another question from Ashish Sinha. He said to this question is for the Prasant Sinha, and Prasant, and there is a question for you, that how to successful launch a startup. They wants to say that need a proper guidance to starting from zero making to $1 million company like that.
I wish there would have been a magic formula, but you know, I think that was answered before. There is no magic formula to it, and that's the very nature of entrepreneurship. Uh, what is critical, that you should be solving a problem you are passionate about. You may not know the route, that is fine. You may not have a clue as to having all answers together, that is fine. Even the capital can be a challenge initially, that is also there. But what is very, very critical, and what every angel fund or seed funds look, is your passion and commitment to the problem. You have identified a problem that you're very passionate about, and you're willing to commit yourself fully to solve that problem. And that, I would say, is the basic of starting an enterprise. Unless you have that figured out, your enterprise journey would be, you'll meander for some time before you set out. However, once you have that problem statement where you want to work and you think you have passion for that and you want to solve it, then obviously there are various ways available. There are a lot of HNIs who do seed funding. There are people who also invest in ideas. There are both institutional investors as well as HNIs who invest in ideas, people who do the seed funding, people who will do Series A, Series B, Series C. And not only they will bring the right money, but at the same time, they will bring the right mentorship and expertise to help you navigate your business challenges. However, it is important as an entrepreneur to only, to keep a balance of how you are divesting your shares, whichever is how you are growing the value of your shares. If you divest too much too early, where the the valuation is low, obviously the returns you're going to get through selling those stakes would be pretty low. So it's important to calibrate how you divest your shareholders. Also, it is very critical in terms of what kind of people you're associating with, what kind of organizations you're associating with. So most of the times, if you get the right HNIs or the right investors, the relationship between an investor and an entrepreneur is not just about investing. It's a whole lot of things in terms of getting the right coaching, getting the right mentorship, getting the right resources, getting the right network, getting the right grooming. So everything comes as a package. So, entrepreneurship is not really a journey where you have everything figured out and, the swimming pool and the lanes are all defined and now you say everything is ready, let's jump in. That's not how it works. As long as you think you have a problem that you want to solve, it's a problem that needs a solution and you're very passionate about it, jump in the pool. The swimming pool and the lanes will develop as you swim through the situation. So yes, I mean, it cannot, like, you've got pretty good examples of even how such big CEOs have gone through the journey. And the lesson there is you may not have everything figured out. And as an entrepreneur, you will never have everything figured out. So don't worry about those things. If you have the passion, you have the problem identified, start working on the solution. The resources and the accompanying guidance will come along with the path.
Okay. Yes. You're absolutely right, Said. There is no such highway or any other path is defined for success in the startup. So yes, thank you. So another
So,
question is for
one quick note. I don't know how many of you have heard this book. This book is called The Hard Thing About Hard Things. It's a book from this guy, Ben Horowitz, who is a um, managing partner for Anderson Horowitz, which is one of the biggest venture capital firm in the entire world. So please take a look at this book. I think all the things Prashant was saying is quite well, you can see that how that applicable, and it's a really good book. It's called The Hard Thing About the Hard Things.
yeah, Shantan, once again, thank you for sharing this very good book. Okay, so come to the last question. That there is a question for Shomodip. That what do you think the number of jobs for the upcoming year? Uh, what will be the scenario of actually this is the very common question to everyone, that what will happen for the next uh, for the campus interview or something like that. He asked this question from Pragati Agarwal for Shomodip.
See, there is no one specific answer for this, because as I initially mentioned that we are actually dealing in a situation which is unprecedented, which has never been seen before. So just as I cannot go and sell a television in a place where there is no electricity, we have to understand that uh, the new way of working is actually coming up for the people, because we have people who are equipped to do that. If there were people who were not equipped to do this, we would not have come to this. The new way of working, the work from home, digitalizations, and the whatever the entire span of new normal is coming up, because we have a workforce who are actually equipped enough to deal with that. Rewind to 20 years back, and I think a pandemic of this stature, if it would have hit at that time, the entire scenario would have been different. So it is very difficult to say that what will be the number of jobs and what will be the scenario. Yes, there have been, as I previously also mentioned, there have been sectors which have suffered, but at the same time, there have been sectors which have seen growth and which have seen huge growth. So jobs, I think, will be more or more technology specific. Jobs will be more sector specific. What I can suggest at my end at this point of time is keep on upskilling, be flexible. You should not have that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things in my head, and if there is a sixth thing that comes up, I am not ready mentally or skill wise to grab that opportunity. So just as we are still in a way of figuring out how probably the next couple of years will be. Uh, I think on the same note, it will be very difficult to say that how the campus interviews and how the physical interviews will be going. It might be so that the entire, you never know. It might be so that the entire process becomes something which we never have seen before. We as an organization in the last couple of months we have seen that, or rather what we have taken a conscious decision is, as a as centrally we have cut physical internships and moved on to almost 100% digital internships. So that is something that has come up consciously keeping this in mind. So changes like this will keep on happening, so there is no one particular answer to this. So what we can best hope is that, yes, I will again say that you guys as a workforce are already halfway there. These things have come up keeping specifically this particular workforce in mind who are equipped to handle this. So work on these, and the remaining things as and when they fall in place, it will be for the best. That would be all.
Yes, yes. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, there is another question, Shomodi, for you, that this guy is asking the direct question that what about in this year hiring?
Uh, I said exactly the same thing. See, we as an organization, as of now, we have not pulled back offers. We are going on with the joinings. We are moving on, but the hirings, the counts, they are actually very industry specific. As I was saying, they are actually very much dependent on a lot of things. So, from what I can say, or from what I have heard in the industry as a whole, there have not been much news about job cuts. Yes, we have to understand that the situation is not as before. So yes, there will be changes, but I individually am very hopeful that we will be figuring out a way in the new normal. And for the people who are skilled enough, for the people who are flexible enough, will definitely there will be a way out. So there is no point in getting demotivated to it, because at this present, see, couple of months back we were not in a position to say what the situation now will be, and the same thing is now, as the Prashant sir just correctly said that there are words of vaccines, there are news of vaccine being developed. So you never know what will happen in the next couple of months. So instead of focusing what will happen, we should focus on what I can do. So that is what this entire piece is about. So what I can do is has been clearly explained. Work on that, and I think whatever is there, whatever opportunity is there, we should be ready to grab it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. And this is the I asked to participant that if you have wants to talk with our speaker, then you can raise your hand. Then just we unmute you. So, so I request to our participants, if anyone wants to talk directly to our speaker, then you can raise your hand. Okay, I think no one is there for that question. So there is a last question for mm, Shantan. There is a one question that what about you think that for right now US education current situation, the current scenario is there, what will be the scenario for the US education? Suppose one student wants to go for the studies. So right now, and so many problems is there. World scenario will be changes. So do you think that everything will be covered into the online, or any other specialty will be there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so the first thing I can tell you, the, the experience in graduate school for me was I learned possibly more from the folks I went to school with, who were my like classmates rather than the professors, because you get like people from all over the world coming and like bring their own skills, their own background, their own way of solving problems and approaching problems. And you learn so much about like places and people, which is which is amazing. Now, in a current situation, classes moving online, um, how that changes the campus life, how that changes how you explore the place you're going to, or the country, or the culture, and those kind of things, because those are extremely important as well. Like, not all parts of US is the same. Not all, like, US and Australia or US and UK are not the same. So uh, where in that kind of a scenario, classes moving online is basically a very tactical part of it. The question is that what is holistically changing? And my opinion, the role of university is possibly not going to change dramatically, at least for higher education, in a small period of time, because the facilities an university provides is the like labs, or being able to collaborate, explore, uh, like brainstorming and stuff like that. Those possibly will not go away. It will be delayed, because all these universities will be cautious, right? I mean, imagine the university I went to, they have 40,000 students in a 1 or 2 square mile area. And it will be extremely important to like put safety of the students first. Now, on top of that, so that basically means that, okay, what do I do now? I mean, I wanted to like go for my MS or my MBA or my PhD. Is it all my dreams shattered? I mean, I honestly no, because all these universities will adapt in a way. It will delay it, and delay doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just happening. Just you have to be a little bit more patient and figure out that what you can do before, because no one can stop you from learning or developing or growing and applying for as many opportunities as possible online, because the world is online. Like, I am joining now from like 6 or 7,000 miles apart, and it's possible because it's technology, right? So you can still do it. So don't lose hope. And the last thing, possibly around uncertainty around the visas and stuff like that, those are beyond anyone's control. The political situation in US is quite volatile. Even within the pandemic, I'm not sure how many of you have been following the news. The whole Black Lives Matter movement has been significantly taken over the country, and there are riots, there are curfew, even in where I live. So the political situation is uncertain, but we can all hope for the best and be prepared for the right opportunity in front of us.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So thank you once again. Thank you for your nice explanation. Okay, so we come to our last of the session. So uh, I think no one, there is no question for right now. Okay, over to Rajdeep for if you go for a vote of thanks.
Okay, sure. I am Rajdeep Goa, Assistant Technical Placement Officer of Bengal Institute of Technology under Techno India Group. Convey my heartiest thanks with regards to Sri Prashant Singh, renowned skill consultant, Sri Shomodip Ghatak, Area Human Resource Head, Reliance Jio, and Sri Shayantan Bhattacharya, Product Manager, Pinterest. So that means for delivering their valuable guidance by giving their precious time after spending their daily busy schedule towards our students through this webinar, and we are also expecting this information become very useful for them for their present academic period and glorious future working life. Furthermore, I am giving thanks to Sri Sudipta Bhattacharya, Professor of CSIT Department as well as Vice President of IIC, for organizing the webinar as a moderator, and I am giving my thanks to Sri Abhijit Bhattacharya, Training and Placement Officer of Bengal Institute of Technology. I am also giving my heartfelt thanks to Dr. Sudipta Chakraborty, Deputy Director of Techno India Group. Lastly, I am also giving my thanks to all attending students and faculty members of different colleges of Techno India Group. Thanking you all.
Okay, thank you, Rajiv, thank you. And once again, I just wants to add two lines more that it's a very early morning, I think, in for Sayantan, right?
Yes,
And thanks for
it's
joining.
like it's 6:42 a.m. I'm sorry
Uh,
if I was yawning a little bit here and there. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. It's okay for that. Thank you once again for and not only this, Sayantan and Shomodeep is our ex-student. So Sayantan is from 2008 pass out, I think, right?
Yes, yes.
And Shomodeep is 2014. So once again, for
13,
thank you
13, 13.
for being with us, sir.
2013 pass
13,
out,
13.
Shomodi.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So good to see you for a wonderful place as a teacher. Thank you once again. Thank you for and thanks, Mr. Prashant Sinha. Thank you for your wonderful insight to in this webinar. Once again, thanking all of you, and special thanks to our for creating this webinar for Abhijit and Rajdeep also training and placement cell of
Thank
BIT.
you. Thank you.
Okay, and thanks to our principal sir. I think principals are also watching this. Okay, so thank you, sir. Thank you for watching us. And last but not the least, our students. So if you just use these thoughts or use this insight into your life, then I think they are what they are said. These are very correct things. So once again, thanks all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
we are just leaving. We are just leaving in this meeting.